I made this video in response to Shredded Sports Science talking about muscle ups and how we should go into more detail about muscle ups. So we'll be going over again specific criteria that he was talking about, specificity, effectiveness. Is the muscle up something that everyone should aspire to? With the overarching theme being risk reward. So got my tea and let's dive in. So the first topic is specificity and effectiveness. Now, specificity and effectiveness, as I understand it, is when you take a specific exercise, so in this case it's muscle ups, is that specific exercise going to make your athletes perform better at whatever sport it is that they're doing? Now, I kind of like to divide this up into, really I guess it ends up being into 4 different groups. So people who don't need it, or athletes who don't need it, athletes who do need it, and then I like to group the last 2 into general population. So regular Joes and Janes, and then people who've dabbled in calisthenic exercises before. Now, first people who don't really need to learn how to muscle up are athletes that are in sports such as like football, basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, bodybuilding, strongmen, power lifters, and I don't know. But those are just some examples, because there's nothing specifically within those sports that I can see that need that pull to push movement, especially in this, like, I guess, what is it, the frontal plane? In this frontal plane of going here to here. There's nothing in those sports that needs that movement. And there's nothing that a muscle up can do for those athletes that a loaded pull up or a loaded dip couldn't do either equally or better. And those exercises carry less of an inherent risk than the muscle up itself, obviously due to there's no need for there's no transition point from the pull to the push. Now, for athletes who do need to learn how to muscle up, 4 big ones kind of come to my head. Gymnasts, or all-around gymnasts, or bars gymnasts, calisthenics freestyle athletes, parkour, and CrossFit. Now, those 4 athletes need to learn muscle ups, because in those specific areas, muscle up is really just kind of like the beginner. It's just like the basic. It's one of their just most basic movements that they have in their arsenal of whatever it is that they're in their arsenal of I guess their arsenal of movement. Because if you don't learn how to muscle up within gymnastics and calisthenics freestyle athletes, that's kind of it. Like I said, that's their base. That's like it's like pull up and then muscle up, and then you can start going into the bigger things. Or muscle ups are what help you get more momentum to swing from point A to point B. Specifically in parkour, I believe they're called laches, where they pull themselves all the way up and then they come out and then they swing and then they let go, release. And that muscle up, that specific type of muscle up, is needed to generate their momentum to be able to swing them from the bar to the precision that they're doing. And CrossFit athletes, they do AMRAPs for muscle ups, rings and bars. Again, this debate has been done to death. They may not be doing it safely or effectively, but they have to learn it specifically if they want to be considered one of the best CrossFit athletes. Now, finally, for the third group, for Joes and Janes, like I said, so there's a specific group of general population where they're just looking to get healthy and live a happier lifestyle. Happy and healthy, that's all they want. There's no reason for them to learn muscle ups. I believe the risk is way too high than the reward, especially from having to start them probably from scratch most of the time when they're coming to you for advice. Now, for those who have already dabbled, now the second group, right, that have already dabbled in calisthenics and are now looking to try and push themselves a little bit further, it'll be up to you as the coach to give them, to explain to them how the movement works, the inherent risks that are involved, and if they still agree, they're still like, hey, I still want to learn, then I believe it is your job as a coach to take them under your wing and then slowly and safely progress them to the movement, or to the muscle up, to the end product that they're wanting to learn. Second one, is the muscle up a true test of strength? Another criteria that Shredded Sports Science had listed. And again, this is kind of laughable. The answer is no, because you can say that about literally every single exercise that has ever been created in the history of exercise or movement. Now, that's not to say that it's not a good measure, right? Specific, and again, it's all dependent upon what you are doing. If you're a CrossFit athlete, again, as I mentioned earlier, the amount of muscle ups is a measure of strength that you can compare to the higher level CrossFit athletes on what they're doing. And same thing for calisthenics freestyle. You can have a general basic muscle up, but then now it's like, well, now what can you do with that power? Can you do backswing 360s? Can you do, let me see, what are they called? They're called like reverse, I think it's called like reverse grip 360. They come around and they spin around again. What can you do with that power that you've learned from getting your muscle up? Again, it's a measure. It's not a good test. As I said before, and there are other harder movements than muscle ups. There's one-arm pull-ups. There's tiger bend handstand push-ups. There is the reverse muscle up, the Hefesto. There's a whole bunch of different other body weight movements that are much harder than the muscle up that you could arbitrarily just say is the test of strength. Same thing with bench, squat, and deadlifts. There are measures that it seems that that have been followed, right? Because it's like, I believe it's if you can squat at least 2 times your body weight, you are either above average or you're athlete level, or it might be 2.5. Same thing with bench press. If you can bench press 1.5 times your body weight, you are above average or again athlete level, so on and so forth with all the different exercises. There are measures that you can compare yourself to, but I personally believe there's no one test of like true strength. Now, it just comes from, the true test of strength just comes from people, it's just trying to build yourself up, just trying to spark conversation, spark debate, spark traffic on your page or on whatever it is that you're doing. It's just meant to make people have an emotional investment to click on your post or to click on your article and then they can write down their article like, hey, whatever, you're the worst, stupidest person ever. They'll be like, hey, you're the smartest person ever. You're right. Muscle ups are the true test of strength. It's just for generating discussion. It's just for generating traffic to their page. This is my opinion. Next criteria is the muscle up a exercise that everyone should aspire to? And I find this answer to be subjective. But specifically, again, if we're talking about athletes, if you're an athlete and you're curious about muscle ups, you just have to basically answer this question: is this muscle up going to make me better at my sport? If the answer is no, don't worry about it. Just continue with doing your either regular pull-ups or loaded pull-ups, regular dips, loaded dips. Don't worry about it. If the answer, however, is the opposite, if you're an athlete and muscle ups specifically relate to your sport, then you should probably learn how to muscle up. It'll probably benefit you in the long run to learn how to do it safely and effectively. Now, where I believe it gets, I say subjective, but I guess it's really not, is that in general population, right? So as a trainer, if, again, like a regular person just comes up to you and they say, hey, I haven't worked out since high school, or I haven't worked out since college, I want to get back into it, I want to just be healthy again. There's no reason for them to learn to muscle up. They can be perfectly happy and healthy doing everything else and not learning how to muscle up. The muscle up doesn't like all of a sudden grant you like specific strength benefits that just put you on top of everybody else. It's just one of those visually appealing movements that is like that gets a lot of oohs and ahs from people. But I mean, there's nothing inside a muscle up that is inherently like, man, this is the exercise. So if you're one of those trainers that are like, oh, calisthenics is the only way to do things, then you're an idiot, because there's other ways to do things. There's no reason that you should be enforcing, because more than likely you're probably enforcing that on that poor person that you're training. You're going to be like, you're going to tell that person, you're going to feed that person a bunch of crap saying like, hey, the muscle up is is the thing. You need to aspire to learn how to do a muscle up, because if you can't do a muscle up, you're not going to be happy, you're not going to be healthy. And in fact, that's total crap. There's no reason for it. If you can get them in a better place from where they started, then that's already an improvement, and that's already like 100% leaps and bounds better than what they were doing before. There's no reason that you need to continue enforcing that specific belief on them. Now, on the flip side, right, if there is you just call them like a general athlete, somebody who's, again, been dabbling in calisthenics, you know, they have a couple of pull-ups underneath their belt, they have a couple of dips underneath their belt, and they're like, hey coach, or hey whoever, I want to learn how to muscle up. Like, I see a muscle up and I'm like, man, everybody can do one, I can't do one, I want to learn how to do one. Again, as I said earlier, it is your job to point out the risks associated with the muscle up. Like, obviously, again, specifically in the elbows and the shoulders, and to point out and how to get them there safely, and yeah, basically how to get them to the muscle up itself safely, because people are people. There's no reason that that a person can't learn how to do a muscle up. So typically, if someone wants to learn, they're gonna find a way to learn it, regardless of, even if you told them all these, even if you told them all the risks associated with it, they're probably still gonna want to learn. And in my opinion, it's better to take them, especially if you're a seasoned coach or at least know what you're talking about, to say, hey, like, this is how you safely progress and get to a muscle up, right? These are the exercises that really help, that are really beneficial, that'll get you there safely and as quickly as possible. And the same thing goes for an athlete whose sport doesn't really benefit from muscle ups, because athletes are just driven people. Same thing, right? They just see a muscle up, they're like, ooh, that's pretty, I want to do that, I want to learn how to do that. Even if it may not be specifically helpful to their sport, they just might want to learn. Same thing, right? Detail the risks, detail the risk reward, and if they're probably still going to be dying to learn how to do one, give them the exercises that will get them to progress there safely and effectively, as opposed to the athlete or the person doing it by themselves with no help and no knowledge, and probably getting themselves hurt doing it that way, as opposed to having a guide to get them there. So, if this was too long, you didn't watch it, here are the main bullet points, right? Specificity and effectiveness. If it helps you be better at your sport, do it. If it doesn't, then don't. Is the muscle up a true test of strength? No, you can literally say that about anything. Should people aspire to muscle up? Subjective. As I said it before, athletes, if it'll make you better, do it. If it doesn't, then don't worry about it. General population. If you're a calisthenics trainer or any kind of trainer and you say that muscle up, and you tell that poor person that a muscle up is a true test of strength, you're an idiot. Now, if the person is looking to try and has already dabbled, right, and is looking to make themselves, push themselves better, again, teach them risk reward, get them there safely and effectively.